In this video, I'll show you exactly how I fix this complicated company that designs and sells window drapes and shades to wealthy homeowners. We built them an all-in-one business system so they can run their business from one place. Now, I'm Drew Brockbank. I built more than 185 business systems to actually work in the real world for clients across the world, from startups and political campaigns to billion-dollar scale-ups and everything in between.
You guys do custom soft furnishing, manufacturing, design, and resale. You resell for about 90 plus vendors, both B2C and B2C, wholesale to interior designers, B2C direct to homeowners. You guys have a small team. You guys have a physical studio for fabric selection and some manufacturing, current Zoho setup, campaigns, bookings, forms. Not using the CRM yet. Hesitant about using it and making sure it's properly set up. Customer journey map is complete. We'll skip over some of this stuff. This is a little older. Some of the tech stack challenges. Started on Zoho, moved to NetSuite, back to Zoho. NetSuite couldn't handle product variants. Currently, I have Shopify. It's not live yet. Your bookkeeper's attached to it. You don't want to move to Zoho Books, which is completely fine. We deal with systems like that all the time. Inventory tracking, accuracy issues from NetSuite to QuickBooks migration. We started to get a little bit into the nuances of inventory in the last discussion. Developing children's line under DBA, that needs separate tracking. It was just something that was mentioned. Discovery stuff. Sales metrics and business model, 80% wholesale, 20% retail. That was in 2024. 2021 to 2023 was 60% wholesale, 40% retail. The goal is to move towards more of a retail-focused business. That's what was mentioned, I think, on one of our initial discussions. It was discussed that you guys were moving over from wholesale due to a bad client experience, from wholesale to more B2C due to a bad client experience. You guys want to be a little more picky on who you bring on as clients. One designer provided enormous volume. There was all eggs in one basket risk there with one designer. Still accommodating commercial, but not actively marketing to it, relying on word of mouth and strict discovery sessions. But the issue really isn't the marketing, as we'll get into in just a moment. So marketing strategy and customer profile, current marketing approach, mostly word of mouth, some minimal social media. Google My Business generates some leads. Not paid advertising. Website currently is down for updates. Demographic, you're talking middle-aged or older, wealthier, investing in their forever home for, that they're going to live for 20 plus years. Ideally, you guys have clients who value well-decorated homes and are willing to spend the money to make it look the way that they want. You have a geographic focus in central Indiana, wanting to expand regionally. There's a major opportunity with the Meta data center and expansion in your area. Tens of thousands of new employees are going to move to the area. And so it'll probably be a lot of introductory level products, but still it's an opportunity. And then as homes are developed, there's going to be a need for window treatment there. Potential builder developer partnerships for marketing, that is on the list too. Let's talk about system priorities and implementation focus. The primary focus area is sales and service. A little easier for you guys to acquire business than it is to fulfill. Talk about some of the challenges there. Complex project management spanning multiple months, need tracking from initial call to installation. Attribution setup is critical for future marketing, we can talk about. Tracking which ads and sources actually generate revenue. That could be helpful in the future. Current form submission rate is really low. Mostly, it was put here when I took the note. Only one person's ever filled out the website form. Most people are calling in or sending texts, apps to prioritize. Mentioned at one point, she'd send over an app list of apps she doesn't need. We don't really need that, but that could be useful. Guys, after we do the discovery, we'll give you an action plan. And if in the action plan, you're like, we don't want to use that app, we just cross it off. It's not a huge deal on our end. We'll respect the existing QuickBooks setup. And with that, that is the recap. We did talk about some things in the sales process that I'll mention real quick, because I know you're taking over a lot of the sales process that was mentioned by getting text and phone calls. Ideally, would get referral information and then make the initial connection instead of getting a call out of the blue and trying to take control of the call with someone who wants to discuss all the details of their project. Most people self-qualify before they reach out. We talked about the in-home consultations. From in-home consultations to sales, almost 100%. So really it's deciding if the in-home consultation is even worth it to begin with. That's a big thing. When you get to their home, it's taking lots of pictures. It'd be nice to do a preliminary background check for safety. Do they have an arrest record, something like that? Obviously, there's some safety issues we want to avoid. It'd be nice to have a background check button. I think that was mentioned by just in the system. You can use AI to search the internet, find things like an arrest record and whatnot. What kind of treatment are they looking for in the home? Hard window treatment, soft window treatment. They'll send you pictures for inspiration. We talked about building the presentation for them, how that can be quite challenging. So once you do the first in-home consultation, oftentimes you guys will learn things like there's 5 more rooms than you initially thought there were, or they'll like different samples. And I mentioned as an idea here, jumping around a little bit, that we could make an AI agent where you could speak into, and it will create the initial quote. It won't be perfectly done, but it'll kind of give you a head start into creating quotes. That was just an idea that we talked about a little bit. I mentioned it'd be helpful if an AI agent could assist in creating the quote. At a high level, you have referral, sales call, in-home consult, and then I called it presentation. You guys can kind of modify that so it's better terminology for you. But presentation is after in-home consult, turning around and saying, hey, based on what we know you need for your window treatment, this is what we'd suggest. So this is where we really get into the meat of things, and then we can pick up with you. So I mentioned pricing is enemy number 1. Every component needs to be priced. There can be, I think you mentioned like 14 components, even in just like one drape, right? So between the metal rings and all the materials that are a part of that, it's a lot, right? Things you just wouldn't think about. And so it becomes really difficult when you're quoting to bundle all those different items to a master item. We would call that in Zoho a composite item. Then there's creating the renderings. People know what it would look like, collecting physical samples, design presentation meeting. You guys use a software, I think it's Quiller that you're looking at. Maybe it's worth moving over to Zoho Sign. Quiller is just a way to put together the proposal. And then normally you try to leave that meeting with a deposit so that you're moving forward. But oftentimes that meeting sometimes doesn't go as planned when you present to them what you would do with their window treatment. Sometimes they want exactly what was talked about. Sometimes they want to add a couple more windows. Sometimes they have a bunch of change requests. That's enemy number 2 I put here is just the change request. The amount of times people are like, actually, we want this fabric. Actually, it's just, there can be a lot of change requests. So outsourcing labor and material for different vendors. Labor, you have seamstresses that you outsource to. Material, or also, actually doing the fabrication or assembling the multiple components together. And then I put here drapes. Sometimes there's 40 plus components. That's what I think had mentioned. Most fabricators are priced by size and product. Also mentioned that it's actually really difficult to even get an accurate estimate from the fabricator, which is that's another really tricky piece of this. There's tons of price lists per product. So each product can have different variations of pricing. I mentioned compound items. It's an item with multiple items within it. That's all that means. And then I put as my last note here, which is perfect. Let's focus on from quoting to installation, all the back office work. So we're going to talk about that. Before we do, last thing here, I know you remember this. We talked a little bit about training, the idea behind training. Let's make sure we have a knowledge base of how to use these things in the system. And the way to go about that, have record things that she wants to upload. She sends those recordings to either, and then you two can convert the video into a written SOP. We have a standard operating procedure on creating standard operating procedures that we'll put into your system. Why are we talking about this? We want to build this system and then give you a way to sustainably train the team over time. That way, it doesn't take a lot of time for them to offload things to you guys, and you guys can start to do it too once you expand the team. It's a great way to build a useful knowledge base. Short and sweet with training. We've seen a million ways to do SOPs. We've only noticed one way that works over a long period of time. We're going to share it with you. Okay, so with that, from quoting to installation, what I'd like you to do is just start to walk me through what the process looks like. If I notice you're going too fast, I'll slow you down. Feel free to share your screen too and just show me what you're doing. We'll go from there.
Yeah, so I do have some, I went through and I looked at, we do have some process material.
Perfect.
If I can even work this. Oops. Okay. So I guess quoting would fall in this consult category. Kind of like, I guess what would have said, quoting is probably our biggest
Hurdle, time
yeah,
sucker,
for all of those words.
pain point.
I mean, really, it just takes a while and you learn. You learn all the components to quote by one time forgetting a component and then it all goes bad. So quoting, I guess, would fall in this consult. These are broader categories, so a lot of things happen in these. Once we have all of the numbers down, in that quoting, should I talk about the quoting process?
Yes. Yeah. That'd
Okay.
be helpful.
My rule of thumb is to always go to the vendor for numbers, and to verify that their product will work for our project. It's their job to tell us otherwise. And that's kind of a
Hey,
lie.
real quick, I'm gonna pause you real quick. So
Yeah.
let's say the in-home consultation was completed.
Mhm.
What are you using for reference to then determine what vendor to reach out to? What are you looking at to think I need to reach out to this vendor?
A lot of it will depend on the qualification of the homeowner. If they are looking for a more durable product, we can go to a higher end vendor. Or if they're one of the more standard homeowners that is just maybe cares more about function, we could go to a vendor that specializes in I guess that category of things.
So my question would be, when the in-home consultation is being done, is that who are doing that, the in-home consult?
For the most part now, yes.
That ever you that's doing the in-home consult?
Yeah.
What comes out of the, do you guys have like a document after the in-home consult that you use to inform the quote?
We're working on that. A lot of it is we do just take notes throughout. For the most part, we go in with a general idea of what the client wants, but I think that we're all pretty good at knowing what products we offer. And then at that in-home consult, if a client adds on another treatment or room, we can almost, I don't like improv, or at least offer some suggestions of products that we would think would work, and then we can use that to build a quote.
So during the in-home consult, while
Mhm.
you're taking notes of what they're interested in, you can kind of pitch right there and then, like, these are some things that may be of interest to you. So you
Yeah.
already have an idea of what specific products they'll want.
Yeah, we can come up with products on the spot that we think would be a viable option. But it's when the homeowner right then and there goes, hey, just give me a ballpark estimate. It's darn near impossible. And we are going to try to work on coming up with some standard, okay, you got a window that's this big by this big, and we're going to try to have a few ballpark estimates, but it's tricky. And we don't want them to be locked in on that. You hate to say a number that's might not be really what it is.
Also, yeah, it's one of those things where it's a fair question, but they don't understand the work that it takes to even give them an accurate estimate, right?
Yeah.
One thing there, I mean, this is what we do, is a lot of people will say, how much is the Zoho system going to cost? And we say, we got to do the discovery first, right? But then we say most of our projects fall within a 48 to 80 hour range. So maybe worth doing something like that. That's so separate from Zoho, but just a thought, something to think about, just saying, hey, most of our projects of this size will fall within this range, but don't get married to that because we still need to do our work, our due diligence to give you an accurate estimate. Got it. So during the in-home consult, you're taking notes. while they're talking about what's of interest to them, you can pitch products to them. And so after the in-home consult, you should have a list of products they're interested in, correct? That you're
Yeah.
with a quote. Okay.
And a lot of the time we do bring, of course, if a client springs on us something that we weren't even aware of before, like sample products that do give us a better understanding of what the client is want. If we know that they're attracted to a fabric from this book, we can use that price range. So that's kind of narrowing it down further. But we can take away a lot of information from those consults. They're so important for what we do.
The notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you taking notes?
iPads, notebooks. It's not efficient.
Not high tech.
But then we do standardize it. I try to upload it into our client folder, and I guess I love to handwrite and then digitally clean it up. So I guess that's
okay. So I like that. I think that's good. Just a suggestion here. This is kind of outside of the realm of Zoho, but I think it'd be useful to mention. So we use a tool called Granola AI. And what I like about Granola is you can take really, really messy notes very quickly. And at the same time you're taking notes, it's transcribing everything that's being discussed. And once you finish taking the note, you can look at your raw notes, and you can look at an AI enhanced version of the notes, and you can chat with the notes after. So you can literally ask the notes after, what list of products were they interested in? And it will pull from the transcript / from your raw notes. So that's something to consider. You can actually have that running on your phone. So as you're going through the house, you'd have the transcript. So it's at least recording everything you're saying to the prospect. And it should be picking up some of what they're saying if they're close. And then you can just jot down very quick raw notes as you go through the consult.
Yeah, I know we've had some things like that we used to use Zoom, and there's like a AI Zoom note taker. So I'm familiar with that, but I never considered to use it for a consult. So yeah, I'll tell, that might be nice.
Yeah, because I'll just show you how we're using it for you guys, because this is our in-home consult with you guys, right? Like,
yeah,
doing it digitally. So this is the raw notes that I take, right? But then when I recap notes with you at the beginning of the meeting, you can see the transcriptions running. I can pause it, and I can flip from a very prettied up version that's AI enhanced, which means it's filling in gaps from the transcript. And then I can look at the raw notes that I actually took as I went through the in-home consult. And then the nicest part here is I can say, what list of Zoho apps were of interest? Just as an example, I could even upload a spreadsheet, right, of product SKUs and say, which of these were they interested in? And then I can ask it. I can even use different models here. It's pretty advanced. So that's just something I think could be useful. It's an additional subscription, but the cost is not going to be substantial. I think it's like $15 a user or something. So.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yep. So just wanted to mention Granola could be useful there during your in-home consults. I like when I do meetings like this, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. Sometimes you have so many notes, it's just like it's so hard to sift through. It's so nice to be able to chat with your notes and it showed this part of the transcript and this part of your notes that you took. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell, because it sometimes what we're also running into is we're hoping to have a standardized document of like almost like a guide for us of questions to not forget to ask, or measurements to not forget to take, or things to figure out before you leave. And that would definitely help if we just had that constantly flowing. Because sometimes I just do forget to take notes. But that consult is crucial, and those notes are crucial for us to
that informs the presentation, right? Like everything you base the presentation off is the notes that you took.
Yeah. And for the most part, sorry, you go.
Oh, I was kind of like having 3 cooks in the kitchen sometimes too on any one project. And I don't know if I've had a chance to relate this to you, but we're trying to also, we'd be very interested in a system where if he's working on a project and I can readily see whatever she's tackled, like if she left today and then she's out of the office tomorrow and I wanted to come in and pick up where she left off,
Mhm.
where's the best place for all of us to access all that information? I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of, I don't know if she's talked to you about that or not, but so the notes when we come home from a consultation, where are those going to live so that any person on the team can see those?
Yeah, most likely. This is a great question, by the way. So in the CRM, we'd have a field called the granola notes. This is how I do it too, right? So I meet with the client initially, have a discussion. When I hand off work to, it's already in the system. It should be if I'm keeping up to date. There's a section called granola notes. You can look through all those notes. Can ask any questions about the client to the notes before even escalating to me, which is really useful because everything was already captured. If it has questions, you can just ask the AI to bring up relevant parts of the transcript. So it would just be in the record. That would be that's the short answer. The next thing too, if you guys all take notes, you can actually all put it into granola and it will take all of your notes into account. And then lastly, one thing you mentioned, you're like, there's a list of things you may want to go through in every consult. You want to make sure these are like must ask kind of things. That part, I would just probably make a list of them. I would just kind of list it out and then you can copy paste it in every granola. There may be a more technical way to do it eventually, but for now, I just kind of copy paste. That's what I do oftentimes. And then last thing that I think would be really interesting for you guys in granola is what you can do is you can create templates. So do you see how this says auto right here? This is an auto summarization of the transcript in my notes. You could also create your own template and say, hey, these are the different sections that need to be in every template. And you could say, pull every product in this section. Summarize the vibe in this section, whatever you want to do, so that every time you start the quoting process, it's a standardized document from the in-home console automatically. So that's something to consider too. I mean, a lot of those sections, what I would do if I were you, the sections that you use in the presentation, I would, as much as you can, try to mimic that here so that it's not going to be perfect, but at least it's almost a lot of it's copying, enhancing, and then pasting, if that makes sense. So something to consider. All right, I'll get off my granola kick, but we found this super useful as a tool, and I'm sure you guys will find it worth considering. So
Yeah, I'll
Cool.
message that too. But I mean, it looks like and you said it would just be in our like a client CRM file. So
yeah,
to speak,
yeah,
profile. I don't know the correct word.
you're completely fine. Yeah, it'll be on the record. I will show you exactly how we do it and how we did it for you guys. Is that these? Yeah, we have it. So each client, we have a link to their granola. And we'll do just one moment here, guys. This is pulling up for me. Okay, so if you check this out, this is where it lives. Really simple solution here. We could make it much more advanced, but you'll notice in your record in our system, got all this information related to your account, but specifically here, we've got your granola notes. So if we click on it, anyone can go into it, ask any questions and see a summary of everything that was discussed. So, and then this is from an external perspective. When you're in the app, it'll look like this, and you can do much more advanced things as well. So that's what it'll look like. You can even send it to your client right after, and that's a good look for you if you say, hey, look, these are all the notes that we took. This is going to inform our presentation. Thanks for meeting with us, and we will get back to you in a couple of weeks or whatever it might be. So excellent. All right. So just wanted to show you there what it would look like in the record. Great questions there. Where we just left off, just so we can pick up, is within the console. Let's just say ideally you guys use granola for the notes. Now you have a list of products that they're interested in. They'll talk about specific things they're attracted to. You guys will know in the back of your head, like, okay, I know what they just said. We've got 90 plus vendors. I think I know what vendors we're going to reach out to after this with products. Okay, let's say that all happens and you get your ideal notes document after in-home consultation. Is there anything else from that notes doc that you think is worth mentioning before we go to preparing the presentation?
I guess the console, a large part of what we do is we get preliminary measurements to then inform the quote. But other than that, I mean, that's one of the largest parts of going to an in-home consultation is to take those measurements. But those numbers really help us create an accurate quote. But then other than that, I think that consult's done, and then we move into the quoting process, and we try to quote within a timely manner of the consultation. A lot of the quoting process is honestly waiting on vendors to get back to us.
Yeah.
Because we reach out and especially with for a while there, we were pretty good at keeping up with, okay, this company gets this price list out during the fall, and this company does it during the spring. But then, I mean, tariffs really threw a wrench in that. And so every company was just making new price lists every month. And that's especially a reason for us to ask them for numbers. Because they have to honor those rather than us going off a price sheet or whatnot.
Right, because they have to send you a quote and they have to honor the quote that they send over.
Yes, and the other layer of that is they know the extra components that we would need. Whereas if I'm quoting it myself, I may forget that we would need an extra bracket for a drapery rod or whatnot, because they require you to give them all the information necessary, and we can use that if we have those notes really in a standardized form, I guess.
Yeah.
We would be able to get that to them much easier and much more efficiently.
Got it. So when you have your notes, you take those notes and then turn those into requests for quotes from your vendors.
Yes.
And then those requests for quotes, how are you creating those? Is this just an email where you're listing out the products? What does it look like?
Email. Most of the time we can specify that we want this line of a product, but sometimes we are asking for their suggestion based on the product knowledge that they know, especially if we're in between two items, or and it could all come down to the cost, but reaching out to multiple vendors about numbers and also timeline is a big factor in that. If we can get it quicker and not a huge price difference, then we consider that as well.
Got it. So these RFQs can take different forms, right? Because if you know exactly what you want, you're saying these components, these dimensions, this amount. But if you're kind of like, we need to be consulted a little bit, you may ask, this is the general requirements. Could you give us some recommendations?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the timeline can take longer too, because for instance, I said, hey, can you provide a quote on this drapery rod at this length? And they're like, yeah, here's the quote. But because they're experts and that they'll go, we actually don't recommend that one because of the width of that window. We recommend you go this one. So then it starts a whole new trend. You're like, okay. And sometimes just waiting on the emails back and forth takes a while.
Yeah.
It is another problem that we're having is, again, for the most part, we are kind of working on different projects individually and then oversees us, I guess is a good way to describe it. But if there's ever something that I'm out for that's in the office and maybe I forgot to do XYZ and there's no, or if we've been waiting on a quote and we finally receive it, I guess a better way for us to all be informed on if a quote's been sent, if a quote from a vendor has been received,
Yeah, like where is it out in the process? Yeah. Yeah, we'll add stages. I like contact, consult, present, procure, but within consult, we can have stages um, like quote created and then like RFQs sent. And then is it normally multiple RFQs because you're working with multiple vendors, or is it usually just one vendor?
Most definitely multiple vendors. Sometimes we're asking multiple vendors for the same product that we're trying to quote. But
Yeah.
but it's definitely a lot of juggling with different vendors.
Yeah, because I imagine something like RFQ sent, quote created, presentation within consult would be helpful for you guys to see.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, we'll come up with a list of stages, and stages are really easy to change, but we'll give you a recommended list to start from and put those in the system. Okay, we can certainly do that. Let's say where we're at in the process now, you get these, you have your notes, and as soon as you look through your notes, you start to pinpoint, hey, this is the list of products that we're going to go for. But these 10 products have 3 different vendors for whatever number of products we have. So now I have to reach out to 3 different vendors and send 3 different RFQs. 2 of those RFQs might just be really straightforward. They give us a quote. Some of them might be consultative, right? Where now you're going down the rabbit hole. So I want to give a way to track the RFQ process. Is it usually multiple RFQs every time?
Yeah, and for the most part, we do know which vendors to contact. So it may not even be an RFQ for multiple for every single product, but there is at least one for every single product.
1 RFQ per product?
Most likely, yeah, at least.
And then I'm calling them RFQs. You could also say, would you just add it as a purchase order, or is that too structured to send them a purchase order?
Actually, isn't that what needs for QuickBooks?
Like a purchase order would be what we would use, like
Is a
we would
final?
put it into QuickBooks. I don't know though how that works if we receive ones that we don't end up actually purchasing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because purchase orders have stages, I'm pretty sure. So you can you can status them. Let me show you real quick. But I'm wondering if a purchase order is pretty structured. Oh, go ahead. What did you say there?
Oh, sorry. It would make it easier if they could just be purchase orders, because then they would just, our accounting would be all way less messy, but
Yeah. And I'm going to look in Zoho. I'm pretty sure QuickBooks, I know you guys are mostly in QuickBooks, can do a lot of, QuickBooks should be able to mimic a lot of Zoho's stuff. But I'm seeing here purchases, purchase order. Yeah, it has different statuses. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Excuse me.
Bless you.
No, a purchase order. Thank you. Purchase order can have different statuses. I don't know if this is the same in QuickBooks. So you can have like a draft status, which is the initial, you send them the draft, and then sent, and then approved, received, something like that. So you may want to look into that on the QuickBooks side. We can do it on the Zoho side though, if you want to do the purchase order stuff. But then it's going to mess with your inventory tracking. So I don't know if that's a discussion. I don't know what we should do there.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. Because you're keeping track of all inventory in QuickBooks, right?
Ideally, I don't know how well we're doing it,
Okay.
but
Yeah. Yeah, because this is the point of the process where it'd be nice to kind of standardize what a purchase order is. But here's my problem with the purchase order. A purchase order is like a quote. You're literally putting in the item, the quantity. If you're needing something more consultative, you're not wanting to send something like that, right? Because you're like, we don't really know yet. Is that accurate, or am I not?
Dave and I were talking about purchase orders last week, almost as a way for QuickBooks to have it balance out. Because otherwise, right now, if we don't have a purchase order to refer our payment to a vendor for,
Mhm.
QuickBooks is all confused.
Yeah.
They said, can we make it retroactive where when a vendor sends us, like we order all the parts and pieces and they finally send us an invoice that, and it's we finally have a final number. Can then we create the purchase order then and then just pay it? And she's like, yeah, we could do that. I said, or we can create an estimated purchase order amount. And then when it finally ships, then you get the very detailed final numbers and you can correct it and adjust it. So we were debating on which way to do that. We were having that conversation last week.
Yeah, I think I would, if I were you guys, I would generate the purchase order from Zoho or from QuickBooks, and then status it is like, if you can add a custom status, something like RFQ, because it's like, this is a request for quote. It's not necessarily a live purchase order. We don't want to deduct inventory yet, right? It's not been accepted. But it sounds like we would need to decide if that's how things are going to go. So I'll just add a note here. The RFQ sent. So no, this should be a purchase order in with a custom status as RFQ or draft. Once accepted, it will become a live purchase order and will affect inventory, will affect accounting stock. Yeah, I'd like to have that conversation because when when a purchase order is live, it affects accounting stock. So it says we've committed to purchasing this, and we want to make sure your stock counts are working too. So we can get into that with. Need to discuss this with. All right. Let's say the RFQ process, it's a little messy, right? This is where things start to go a little haywire because all of a sudden different vendors respond at different times in different ways. Let's just say we get all the quotes back from vendors. I know it's easier said than done. What's next?
Looking through them and comparing timeline versus price. Also, sometimes if a vendor has a better sales rep, we'll go with them too, because we know that maybe we're willing to pay extra for better service. So then there's no standard to really picking a vendor to go with. It's mostly just a discussion, or we just decide that we'll go with one of them. And then we use that pricing based on what we pick to build a quote.
Yeah. So then you'll have your cost for each item, and then you'll tack on your margin for your quote that you send to them.
Yes.
And are you sending quotes from QuickBooks?
We tried that. Kind of how the presentation process is going now is we add it in Quiller, and then Quiller connects items to QuickBooks. So there's that link, but Quiller, it's a presentation that shows renderings, products. Sometimes it'll have link to product information, and we will present that. We've been trying to get better about making sure that we schedule a meeting, whether it's in person if the client's local, or over Zoho meetings, to explain the pricing, the project specs, and like our terms and conditions that we have, especially for specific products that maybe have a bit more risk. So that all gets compiled into a presentation.
So I think this is where things get kind of messy, right? So you're reviewing each quote from the vendor, you're accepting different quotes from different vendors. It's got its own little process. Then within that, after that, you're building your quote to your customer based on quotes received from vendors.
Yes.
And then once you get that information, you're going into Quiller. You have the base quote somewhere in Quiller, and it sounds like Quiller integrates with QuickBooks.
Yes.
Okay,
Quiller, like the line items, somehow they talk to each other.
well, that's great. Yeah, that's actually a huge
And it
to Quiller.
adds an item.
Yeah, so I'm going to add that note.
I don't know how robust it is. like there are some things that maybe we'll have to go in and edit something as an inventory or a non-inventory item, but that's one of the appeals of Quiller.
Yeah, and then with that, so QuickBooks sales order or a QuickBooks quote, do you select the QuickBooks quote within Quiller and it just pulls over? Is that how it works?
No, you don't have to make it in QuickBooks for it to be in Quiller, I
Okay,
think.
you can just select items inside of Quiller and
Mhm.
populate each row. Is that how it works?
Because when we were sending clients just a QuickBooks invoice or estimate to accept, then they had a separate presentation, and then they had a separate contract to sign, and it was way too many documents that a client had to deal with just for a simple window treatment project. And that's why we tried to find Quiller to integrate with QuickBooks, because then in theory, you can sign the contract in Quiller, view all the pricing, view the project specs, and pay or pay by check or whatever.
Direct deposit, yeah. Or make the deposit from those. Got it. So Quiller is just the one, bring all the information to one space so that when you do a presentation, you can all see it. I don't actually have anything against Quiller for that. It makes sense. I really like that I can do an integration with QuickBooks because Zoho is not going to be able to do that for a presentation tool. So I like the appeal there for Quiller. I'm assuming with Quiller, you can generate a link for the proposal too.
Yes, and we can also view or see like analytics, like when did the person view it,
Yeah.
which is helpful to make sure that our links are actually working and such.
Yeah, and we can just add similar to Granola, there's a field for a link. We can add that for Quiller too. So within each deal, a deal represents like a sales opportunity. You can just create the Quiller link, generate the Quiller link, put it in the deal record, and then anyone can see the associated proposal, which would be nice. We could automate that, but doing it manually at first, I think is completely fine.
Mhm.
So yeah, Quiller, you'd be able to generate the link for view. That's where you would make and that's where the quote is, the renderings, everything's in the Quiller proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know those can take a long time to make, right?
Yes.
And I think you said one time it took like 60 hours.
Oh my gosh, probably, yeah. A lot of the time that there's been, especially within the past few months, clients that come to us, say they want to start a project, but then they want to wait a month or they want to wait a few months. So I think total for a specific project, it was a larger, like an entire home of window treatments, but we essentially had to redo it all because they changed their mind. So we've gotten better about discerning what's worth it to render and what's not. But renders are also a tool for us internally to mark where something should be installed.
Yeah.
So like 2 inches, 2 and 3/8 inches above, I don't know, this marker on the wall.
Yeah.
You know, you make up a good point too about all the time spent in creating a quote. And if they come back with, oh, I'm going to wait a little bit,
Yeah.
all of the quotes from the vendors are possibly no
No
longer, you have to start back over at scratch because most of them, they're 30 days at most that their quotes are considered viable.
How do you
Mhm.
determine if it's worth rendering and creating this proposal for actual client?
We've had a lot of repeat clients. So in that regard, we do know that it's worth it. Really, it is hard to say though. For hard window treatments, we rarely render because they just don't look realistic ever. Not that renders are entirely realistic ever, but
Give someone an idea, right?
yeah. So that's a condition, I guess. We never render hard window treatments. If it's a simple project too, if the client wants simple white drapery panels, we probably won't render it.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of considerations as far as what's going to go into the Quiller proposal. Let's just say, because we can get to renders, but you'll have your software for creating the render. You'll take screenshots of that or images, or apply it to Quiller, correct?
Yeah.
And then is there a link to the render from Quiller so you can walk around the house in it, or do you just
So
take shots?
it's just a shot. Yeah.
Okay, it's not 3D. It's just a 2D. Yeah, got it.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me put that here too. Render is sometimes. Yeah, I'm trying to identify things we can do in Zoho to either speed this up.
Mhm.
This is my thought on like a maxed out system of Zoho, what it could do. So from the notes that you take, if we have it from Granola to where it exports a consistent format, we can train an agent in Zoho to say, hey, import the notes from the meeting, and it will spit out a initial quote, and it will create the RFQs and send them out to the vendors. And then it will start to do the reminder cadence. So it will say, hey, we sent this over. Could you get us back a quote? Blah, 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 blah. As soon as the vendors respond back, that's where the automation is going to start to fall apart because it can't predict what the vendor is going to say every time. So, but that would, obviously you're not going to trust the AI enough to do all of those things. So usually what I'm thinking as a max out system, we don't have to start here, but is you get the notes from Granola, they're standardized. You import it to something like an AI agent, and you just say, make me a set of RFQs based off of this, and then it can create the first draft for you. And then you can review it, modify it, and then send it out. We call that human in the loop. So AI will do some of it, you'll review it, enhance it, and then send it out.
Yeah.
And then AI can do the reminders so that you're not thinking, oh, for that project, I need to remind the vendor. The reminder cadence can take place there. So other than that, a lot of this stuff is almost like unavoidably complicated.
Yeah, and it's tough because it's a custom industry,
Yep.
and that inherently makes it more a more tailored experience. And we understand that, but it's just acknowledging what can be streamlined and then streamlining it has been our biggest issue. I think sometimes I get tunnel vision. I just think, well, this is how it has to be because it's custom, but I don't think that's the truth.
Yeah. Some of the things are, and you could technically, if we had unlimited resources, we could automate all of it, but it's like the things that are low hanging fruits to me are finding a way for AI to connect the dots from the meeting notes to what products make sense from your list of products to generate RFQs. That's a point of leverage. And then
For
another
sure.
would be just the follow-ups, most likely with the vendors is, I think mentioned, you would think the vendors want to get back to you with a quote, but sometimes you have to bug them.
Yep.
All the bugging can be done through an agent as well, or through Zoho as a system. So those are two opportunities I see. Let me just take a quick note here. RFQs and the loop for proposals for approval. And I can do the follow-up. Okay. So normally, what would we say is the amount of hours taken into this presentation? 10 to 20, 20 to 30? Is it always brushing up against 60?
No. That 60-hour was 6 different rooms, maybe. So that's what made that one a bit more challenging. I would say it typically falls between the 10 to 20 range, I would say.
Okay. That's great. Actually, that's a lot less than.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's hard because there's so many factors that depend on it.
Yeah.
But window treatments, hard window treatments, I would say, are typically easier to price because the vendors have more accessible portals and such and calculators, but it's also a bigger risk.
Yeah. To generate. Got it. Okay. 10 to 20 hours on average. We're not going to hold you to that. It's just good to get an idea of what the hours are to typically create the presentation. Once the presentation's created, it sounds like from what Ed mentioned that almost always people move forward at some point. Is that correct? It's almost 100%?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of
When?
we're going to move forward, but we'll reach back out in a month. But I do think that when we have presented it either in person or over Zoho meeting and explained it, that tends to help us. It's just a way to show the value. But I think that most, if not all of our clients have moved forward when we've presented.
That's right. Okay. How many presentations are you doing a month usually, or is it not a month?
It's dependent because I mean, July, I think we maybe had 3. But then August, I don't know that we had any. I don't remember. Do you?
No, and I was going to ask, because I'm not totally in the loop on this, but when you have ones that come from a designer, do you normally do the presentation the same way you would with like the upcoming one, or that's,
I don't consider that a well,
I don't know how they do it. Yeah.
that's another layer because we are doing the same thing for a designer, except I'm not going in person
Yeah.
Mhm.
or even presenting it
But it's the
virtually.
same
No, right?
process as far as designer request. You still
Yeah.
have to go to the vendors and everything else is similar.
Yeah. So I guess in that case, they would count. Based on the designer, we've been working with one designer who is very hands-off. And that's why it works the way it does for her to fall in that category.
Got it. Designer versus. Okay. So whether it's a designer, whether you're working directly with the homeowner, at some point, most of this process has to be done. Maybe you don't do everything in the proposal you normally do, but still got to do the outreach to the vendors, create some kind of quote and send it over. And I'm sure even the designers want to see maybe a rendering, right? Of
Yeah.
like.
Sometimes we'll render for designers. But that's another example of things that we almost pick and choose on based on the complexity of the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, different sections of the proposal are included based on complexity. So you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Based on complexity. Got it. Okay. So July had 3 presentations, none in August. So if we were to try to average it out throughout the year, maybe once a month, is that accurate?
Probably.
1 presentation a month. How helpful do you think, so it's 10 to 20 hours now. Do you think it's going to make a massive difference to have like standardized notes coming out of the in-home consultation? You think
Yeah, because a lot of what I think that the quoting process takes is guesswork and figuring it out on your own.
Yeah.
Or sometimes if we forget a measurement, we have an app or our rendering software that we can set the scale to and then measure that specific part. It's never super accurate, but just for quoting sake. But it takes time. So I think that if we had a standardized note session, I don't know that it would bring it down that significantly, but for every project, but I could see where, reflecting on past projects, a lot of what I was doing was like chasing information down.
After the in-home consult with
Yeah.
Got it. Even though the data was technically, it was expressed during the in-home consultation, maybe wasn't captured in a way that was easy to reference. Okay. Yeah, because it's we have something we call like there's upstream, downstream. So upstream in the process, you have in-home consult. Then the downstream effects of not capturing notes makes things more complicated. So I'm trying to find as much things upstream we can do so that downstream things are a little more simplified, even though because this is custom, it's inherently going to be a little complicated and time consuming. So thanks for going over that and clarifying. Okay, so let's say presentation's done. You've presented to a client. This is where there's an opportunity for some drop off, although it's not a matter of are they going to come back usually. It's when are they going to come back to get started, correct?
Yeah, for the most part.
And then that's kind of stressful because they can come back and you can say, hey, that initial quote is no longer valid, right?
We do make that clear. But for the most part, we can honor pricing. Not right now, maybe based on just the price changes, but well, even for a previous client, we were able to honor the pricing just because it really hadn't changed.
Yeah, and you're saying because pricing influx due to tariffs, is that what you're saying?
Right now, yeah, but also I think I mentioned before, vendors put out price sheets at different times of the year, all different times of the year.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I don't know, a hardware piece will increase, but nothing else will.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So for the most part, pricing can be, quotes can be honored. Quotes can be honored with an understanding. The big client comes back, it can change. Okay. Let's say presentation's done. You quote somebody. Would you say it's standard for them to come back, I don't know, in a month and say we're ready to get started? It's usually a couple weeks, a couple months. What would you say? Cool.
Probably a month max.
Month max. Okay. And then in the meantime, do you want to make sure they're receiving communications from you? Like, do you think that would be useful? I'm just imagining as a client, even if I'm getting like a newsletter from you or something, just so that I know you're alive and you guys exist.
Probably. It depends on how a client is left. Like if they explicitly say, we're going to do this, but we need a month to get our house cleaned up or whatever, or we're going to do this, but I'm going through big life event, and so I just need a few weeks. Sometimes they are explicit about that. Sometimes they will come back, but they don't give you a timeline. So then in that case, it's hard to almost have a standardized email. But I think that if we could get better, this goes back to marketing with campaigns.
Yeah.
That would probably I mean, we've had people, repeat clients, respond to they're older, of course, but respond to our campaigns with project requests. So,
and that's the exact point I want to make is essentially, since now there's an opportunity for drop off after the presentation, I'm thinking if you came to my home, did the presentation, I liked it, I'm really busy. And so if I was getting a text from you guys every week, and it could be a text, it's not even a text saying, are you ready to get started? It could be a text like, hey, here's the latest project we just did.
yeah.
By the way, you can just have the same cadence run every time. So it's like 3 projects and just say, hey, this is a project we did recently with so-and-so. Maybe you want to check it out. And this is what I call this is a master drip. So you make this drip campaign. A drip just means the same communication over. Make it one time, and you can just apply it to everybody. So it can't hurt because it's not a community. It's I'm going to use some marketing lingo here, but people call it like a jab hook. So a jab is just like useful information. You're not even saying, hey, you ready to move forward? It's not like a salesy thing. You're just saying, this is something that we did. This is a project that we finished. Here's some pictures. And then the hook is
to remind them that you're still there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so you're top of mind, because let's say you did the presentation in my home, and then a week later I've worked with 2 new clients. I'm just like so busy, and then all of a sudden I get this text of something you did. I'm like, oh, my wife would love this. I want to get this done before her birthday or something. I don't know. Then I'm like, okay, that's an opportunity where you kind of reactivate me.
That would also be good if someone is or we know that someone is going to get a second quote. Because maybe that like personableness, that's not a word, would sway them to us.
Someone who is saying, hey, I want to get a second vendor
Yeah.
to come in and quote all this. Yeah. Yes. I thought you meant second quote is in you'll have to redo the quote.
Oh, no.
You're saying a separate vendor coming in and saying, we can do the drapes too. Yeah. Yes. I totally agree with that. And most people you're connecting with over phone. So most likely it'd be text versus email, correct?
Probably.
Yeah. That's true. SMS drip, mostly an email that shows. And you guys, I imagine, have a lot of pictures of that you could use in a drip campaign, right? Of previous
For the most
projects. Yeah. Shows pictures of past projects. Keeps prospect warm. Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be great for Zoho to do. Zoho master SMS drip. Yeah, that can be done automatically. And then if someone responds to the drip, it just kicks them out. So they're not receiving it, or you can have it so it keeps running and you can also have individual conversations with them too. Okay, perfect. All right, this has been great. We got a couple minutes. What I say we do, we've essentially gone through the present stage and now we've gotten to procure. So I say we try to make as much progress as we can through procure. And then
Okay.
whatever we don't get through in this call, we can get through in the next call. You're through procure and install too, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. So it'd be great if you're on the next call. If not, I'm sure we can hold down the fort. But let's get through as much as procure as we can. Let's say they get back to you in a month. You sent them a SMS, they responded, and they're like, "Hey, we forgot, but we're ready to get going." Where do you go from here?
So we require a 75% deposit from the client before we even begin the procurement process. So we require that terms and conditions to be signed and that deposit to be made. Once the deposit hits our account, that's when we signal that we can start procuring. We have projects planned to where we know the exact yardage of fabric to order. We know the vendor that we quoted that we're going to go with for each product. And that has made procuring relatively easy. Of course, there's
Because
always,
you did all the upfront work for the presentation, so now you're like, just time to hit send, right?
yeah, pretty much. And a lot of it is just following up on this quote. We'd like to make it an order and whatnot. There are some bumps in the road with, like we
Delivery
just
schedules, things like that.
had a project where they told us the fabric was on back order until November, and then they just shipped it a few days ago. So we were prepared to have to wait, which I guess is good, but sometimes things just happen. But for the most part, the procurement is just using all the things that we specified before and paying for it.
Yeah.
And tracking it. I think tracking would be something of note here is oftentimes if I'm dealing with a project, I know in my head when things are set to arrive or what is being shipped, what's being delivered. I'm not always good at communicating that though to who will be receiving it. So that is probably a big gap in the procurement stage. I guess a better system to track orders and projects and what products in the projects are where they are essentially, especially if we're doing outsourcing. Like where did we send our fabric, I guess.
This is where I would like to discuss with potentially using Zoho inventory, because while it technically should be in QuickBooks if you guys are going to stay on QuickBooks, it's so nice to have all of the inventory modules. For example, a deal goes from a purchase order, converts to a sales order. And so the purchase order is what did you buy from the vendor? The sales order is the master record for what your customer purchased from you. And the sales order breaks out into packages and then shipments. So from the deal, you can see all the packages that are associated and when they're shipped, and it integrates with the carriers. So as the carrier's updating you on it's something to ship, it's just automatically telling you. So you don't ever have to ask, hey, where's this at? They just go to the record and see all the products and packages and shipment statuses. So I don't know if you guys have any insight as to if you guys are, if that's something might be willing to do, but those are my thoughts.
I think maybe because maybe QuickBooks inventory, we've been having some confusion with things, I guess the classification of things. So I don't know if Zoho would be a solution to making sure that things are specifically accounted for.
Mhm.
But it's definitely something we could talk to her about.
Yeah, because I'm thinking this is a bit messy, but it can be helpful for getting updates. Zoho inventory is used for purchase order, and we don't have to do all of these things, but it'd be Zoho inventory for, at the very least, the packages and the shipments.
Yes.
And then sales order, purchase order, all that good stuff can just remain in QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do bare minimum is for packages, shipments. Okay. So you've kicked things off. You've sent out the purchase orders that's signaled to each vendor that they need to send things over. Let's just say we're tracking an inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here?
I don't know if this is important, but in the procurement stage, we send weekly client updates, just so they know what's going on. And then that gives us a better timeline that we can plan for installation. We never set the installation date until we have received everything and have made sure that everything is gonna work and is what we ordered and such, and of good quality. But that's also kind of the part of the procurement stage.
Okay.
Nothing really business related, but part of most of the procurement stage is just waiting and tracking and finding out where things are. And then once we receive all the items, it would be great to have some, and maybe this is part of the inventory too, mark something as received, mark something as inspected and passed, or inspected, contacted the vendor, did not pass our inspection or isn't what we ordered, just so we know, I guess, what is in our possession maybe and can be used in a project versus what do we need to figure out with the vendor.
Yeah, you're saying like if I was to go, this is an inventory, this is Zoho inventory. So if you had a package, you're saying we need to know if it was, these are packages sent. Let's do on the purchase side here, do a purchase order within a purchase order. You can do mark it as received, correct? You're saying, hey, we sent this purchase order out. These are purchases that were actually received into your, and do you guys have a warehouse? Where are you storing this stuff?
In our workroom.
Workroom? Okay. So is this what you're talking about, just being able to mark the status for the purchase order?
Yeah.
Yeah, because basically you're wanting to say this is purchase, that affects your financial stock, but then receiving affects your physical stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Okay, understood. Certainly assist with that. And then I'm thinking maybe this is more of an advance, maybe a phase 2 thing, but like a procurement automation where customers are receiving updates on the weekly update that you do. It's possible to just have a bot look through the sales order to the packages and shipments, take that information and assess like where are we currently at, and then send that to the client so you never have to do it. or it can make a draft and then send it to you and say, here's a draft, and then you can just approve it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. I think that could be a big time saver.
And that is with you talking about like the bot. Is that like the Zoho AI, like is it Zia?
Yeah.
Maybe what it's called? Okay.
Well, yeah, so Zia AI Agents is not as robust as another tool we use called N8N, and N8N integrates with Zoho.
Okay.
So we use N8N because it's just so much more. There's a lot more you can do with it.
Mhm.
And maybe Zoho gets there one day, but it's a very basic tool right now. So Zia can do some other cool stuff, but N8N is much better with agents because we can choose exactly what data we want it to see from the sales order, from the shipments, from the packages, and then it can assess all that data at once. And then it's almost like ChatGPT if you were to type in, hey, this is the package, this is the status. Could you write an email for our client and do a weekly status update? It would just do all of that automatically for you. So,
Okay.
So you're giving weekly updates. Everything gets to the warehouse or to your workroom where you're storing everything. Once everything's here, is it time to schedule installation?
Yeah, inspection, and then we schedule that installation. And that installation could include, sometimes it's just us who will have to go, but sometimes it will be a process of coordinating with our installer, what his availability is, and yeah, that part's pretty straightforward.
Workroom schedule. Okay, so once all orders are received and are in the workroom, scheduling's pretty straightforward. Just contact the customer, saying what time works for you guys. We'll send a crew over there and get it done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for the most part, we do know if our client works from home or if they are retired. Sometimes we won't always ask for their availability. And we'll just, if we know that they have a generally flexible schedule, maybe we'll ask the week of. But we've learned our lesson about being, I guess, more strict with offering installation dates.
You become more strict in offering those dates?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're sending a text to them, right? Or are you giving them a call?
We do predominantly email for reminders. And if I'm not in the office, I'll just schedule it to be sent normally 24 hours before.
Normally 24 hours before. Normally 24 hours before the installation date?
The installation time.
Okay.
I guess date too. But
before the installation. So you're sending a text or email 24 hours before the available time to go in and actually install?
Yeah. After we have already specified that that's the date.
She sends a reminder one.
Yeah.
4 hours in advance.
Okay. Got it. A reminder.
And that would be something that we've considered using bookings for, where they have to go and fill out. It's a bit complex because then in theory bookings would just remind them. But a lot of our questions are weighing, it's such a personable industry that we're in. So is it what is okay to have automated, and maybe people know that it doesn't come from a person, whereas what can we afford to spend time on to make clients feel more comfortable?
Yeah, I think scheduling, that's actually why I didn't mention it, because I'm like, I don't think it hurts you. I think it's okay to manually send a text and say, hey, what about these times? Although if you guys are looking to scale eventually, that's something you'd want to automate. I think the biggest thing that you just want to nail and make sure is like less automated, more personable, is like that presentation. Like that's the crux of everything, right? Is you then taking all that information from the in-home consult, turning around and providing a solution of what everything's going to look like. I think that's the biggest thing. Things like this, I could go either way. I'm like, we could automate that, send them a booking link, but then there's drop off, right? Like What if you send them the booking link and they never see it?
That
So
yeah.
that's where I'd be more on the side of, but you could also have an agent send it over and then just send reminders until they book.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a nice to have probably for now. And then later
Okay.
we could put it in the plan to automate. Okay, and then you install, and what's the process after that? We got a couple minutes.
We collect the remaining 25% payment. Normally we do, it's tough because there's rarely a situation where we don't have a second installation, whether that's something we have to go back and tweak something, or the client decided that they wanted an extra accessory, and then we have to go back. So that can get a little foggy. One thing that we are trying to get more in the habit of is sending a review request, which would be nice to get automated. I don't know if that would be through campaigns or what, but trying to build up the online presence through reviews.
Oh, review. Got it. Yep. So after second, and you said almost always there is a second installation, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be great after a second installation or first installation, depending on the project, send over and say, hey, tell us how things went.
Yeah.
And you can also, some of my clients will do something where when they send out a review request after, there's like a sentiment analysis. And if it's positive, then right after automatically says, will you leave us a review on ABC? And if it's negative, then you put that in a constructive feedback folder and you can review it with the team.
Yeah, that
No.
would be nice.
Yeah. So that's something we can potentially, we can look at doing review request analysis on form. If good, send a quote for, send a email, sometimes that, send feedback to team. Got it. Okay. Anything else that I should be aware of for the installation process? I know this is the more straightforward of the sections here.
I can't think of anything. Do you have any? It's very straightforward. I mean, in terms of like the business side of it. I wouldn't say that while I'm installing, but
Yeah. Compared to the consult and preparation for presentation, that's where the majority of the work's really happening, and that's before you guys even get paid.
it's so interesting, the industry we're in, because it really does. It's so backwards, but I mean, I think that also to an extent shows our dedication to the client. Like we're willing to do all that.
Yeah, and you guys are going to deliver. I mean, if you're going to do X amount of hours for free, yeah, that's a big reason you guys get those conversions after the presentation, why most people are going with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this has been extremely useful. We got a couple minutes here. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for your participation. This has been extremely useful. We have all the notes that we need to move forward with the action plan, but I want to make sure that I discuss things with Burst before we turn around and start that. So we have our next meeting next week on the 15th, Monday the 15th, for an hour and a half. So I have the notes to get started with the action plan. Do you guys know, I'm assuming you would want to discuss with me before we start that. Do you guys have any insight as to that?
I would agree. I think that, yeah. I mean, she might take the time if she's up for it. Maybe she can watch this so she can kind of get caught up and then have a meeting with you and put her 2 cents in. But yeah, I can only imagine that she has thoughts that she'd like to reiterate. I'm a lot hit it all on the head, but I'm sure
I'm certain I'm
say
something.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So we'll plan on that meeting next week. Thank you for walking us through that. You did a great job. Thanks for your insights. We will see you next week on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll Thanks, guys. Preliminary measurements. That's critical for accurate quoting, style assessment, sample preferences, often discover additional room/scope. His background checks for safety. And then I recommended this.
Said he wants to have that dried. He had texted me after we had spoke.
You guys can continue. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
He said, leave this one. This is for both trips, from before. And we
I'm going to
sent-
pause here, guys, because I do want to
I'm
mention.
wondering-
We've had 2 claims because of the,
Right.
anymore.
Right.
So that we don't need them to drop us or anything.
So he's thinking maybe if they get that dried out, that floor might even back out, not have to do anything with it. So
So are
that's,
you gonna dry or is he gonna have somebody?
he's gonna have someone do it.
Okay.
I don't have any of that drying equipment. or
Yeah,
anything,
I
so-
didn't think so.
But we've got everything cleaned up good.
Yeah, I saw that.
So he said he'd let me know, and then once he wants that heater put back, it'll only take us about 30 minutes to hook it back up.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't realize
okay.
you
No,
were-
you're fine.
What kind of work do you do?
Soft furnishings like draperies and
Oh.
ornament shapes, window treatments.
Well, that's good to know. I'll pass it on to some of the builders I
Sure,
work with.
that'd be wonderful. I
Yeah.
would appreciate that.
Um,
Yeah, we work with builders.
We do a lot of big houses.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
Dan, that was impressive. You got another referrer. So
Yeah, exactly. Love those contractors.
nice.
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have no hot water though. So,
Oh,
no.
mhm. Yeah, ours are all soaked. It's just a
Oh
mess.
no. Oh no. That's bad.
Yes,
Um,
Such as homeownership, I guess.
yes, there you go. Are you in a place where we can pick up, or do you need a
No, he left.
excellent? So we left off on in-home consultation. Kind of went over the broad overview of a sales process. You get a phone call or a text in, 30-minute discovery call to kind of qualify them. Ideally, you call them back as opposed to having the conversation on the spot. You prepare for an in-home consultation if they're qualified, and then you create a presentation. Zooming into in-home consultation is do preliminary measurements while you're there. That's critical for accurate quoting. Do a style assessment, sample preferences. You often discover additional rooms in scope for the project. It does background checks for safety. And then I mentioned using granola. So if you watch the videos, hopefully it showed the screen share of me kind of going over granola at a high level. But I think
Mhm.
that is going to be something critical for you guys, just a way to standardize note taking, to be able to capture all the details that happen during an in-home consultation. We also use that same software as we take notes
Mhm.
for you guys during discovery. So I think that's something that will be helpful for you, because not only does it capture everything via transcript and raw notes, you can output those notes in a consistent format to help you create the presentations faster. So I think that would be useful.
I do have a question about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So we have a questionnaire that we've used in the past, and we're revamping and going to start using it again. That is going to have everything we need to ask a particular client, from discovery all the way through the end of the in-home consultation. And we all like to write on paper when we're at these consultations. Is there any way, how do we get the notes into granola? Like, is there handwriting to text function, or like, do we have to do that elsewhere and then bring it in? How does that work? I'm just curious, because we like that idea. I'm just trying to think how it would translate into practice.
What I think the first thing would be, are you guys absolutely married to the idea of writing on paper? If the answer is yes, then what I would do is have the Granola app open as you do the in-home consultation, hit record. So you're transcribing everything at the very least. And then you can find a way to bring the notes from a notepad into there, either via screenshot, because you can take images into Granola, which is really nice, or you can do, you can convert it to text, but I don't think Granola has a native tool to convert it to text, but I know it can look at images. In the images, it might be able to understand. So it's more of a question mark. If you're not married to writing on paper and you're open to typing it out, what I love about Granola is you can take super raw notes. So while someone's talking, you can just write down like 2 or 3 words. You can spell it incorrectly, and it will identify, it will timestamp when you took the note, and it will look at the transcript and it will flush it out. So that's super useful. So the short answer is it's a question mark. I'm not sure exactly how the text would come over, but I would still get the app in, or a similar app. I don't know anything similar, but I think that tool will be helpful just to capture all the detail. I know how difficult that can be during like a discovery process. So
It is. I mean, I don't see any difficulty doing that on a phone call or, a video presentation. But I do see it being challenging because we are walking around a lot during the in-home consultation. They're giving us a tour of their home. And I would guess a majority of the folks don't want to be recorded within their home.
Yeah. And
So
I don't know. I don't know if there's a way where like initially you could just say, hey, we are transcribing this meeting, but like a voice recording isn't happening. Just something to preface, just to kind of justify having all the details. Because I think there's a way when you enter the home, you could just ask for permission. Hey, we want to make sure we have detailed notes. So when we create a presentation, we have a record of what was said, but your voice isn't being recorded. Is that okay with you? I'm sure they'd be like, oh, sure. Like, I don't think that's good. What do you think? That's what I'd imagine.
yeah, I mean, I think they'd be okay as long as they're not being recorded.
Yeah. Their voice. It's not like there's a voice recording to go back to after, or like a video. It's just going to be a log of what was said.
Yeah, that I think that would be more viable, like for people.
Yeah.
We have some people that like don't even want us to take photos of their home. I mean, there's some really, really private people. So and they're all tend to be a little older. And so I don't know. We'd have
We're
to see.
concerned with privacy.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I do think a bulk of our clients wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm pretty sure, though, that there are ways to get our notes into text that we could bring in.
Yeah, because if you do, right, like, and I'm sure there are tools out there that can scan it. I just don't think Granola has that natively. Let's say you have your written out notes. If you can convert it to text, you can put that into Granola. There's 2 sides Granola. There's the raw notes you take, which is where you can put the converted text. And then there's the AI summarization. You just put it in that section. We could try to do that. And the nice thing about that, the reason I think this is worth like really diving into, is I think it's a point of leverage for you where it's like taking a super messy process and having like some kind of consistent output every time. That's something Granola can assist with.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So it's worth exploring, don't you think? Okay.
Yeah. Just because I know preparing that presentation from the way it was described is so difficult and can be so time consuming. Anything we can do to give you a jump start into that process as far as like detailed notes and in the same general sections, I think I'd imagine could be useful. So
yeah.
Excellent. All right. Next thing here, on average, you're doing about a presentation a month. That's what was mentioned on the last call, I believe, 10 to 20 hours prep time each. He had mentioned, although I know one time it went up to 60 hours or something like that.
Yeah, that was abnormal, but awful.
Kind of brutal.
I would say historically, we're at more like 2 or 3 a month.
2 or 3 presentations a month?
Well, 2 or 3 consultations.
Okay.
So again, it was really slow at the beginning of this year. And so we'll see. I mean, but like historically, I would say it's more like 2 or 3.
Okay. And then I know you're wanting to make sure sales and service is cleaned up so that although marketing's kind of worked for you up to this point with just word of mouth, if those things were plugged up, maybe it's worth exploring a marketing channel so that you can bump back up to maybe 1 to 3. Because I think that's less of the issue for you guys, right? It's like if you wanted to ramp up marketing, you could certainly ramp up marketing. You just don't want to do it if sales and service isn't scalable.
Yeah,
Correct.
I've been really, really hesitant to go too crazy in that department. That being said, we just hired interior design and window treatment specialist marketing firm.
Okay.
And they do kind of like a done for you marketing situation, like a couple email marketing newsletters a month,
Right.
and then associated social media posts and like 2 blog posts. So
Okay.
we're planning on starting that, got that going. And so with that in mind, we would like to use the Zoho social for that, if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with that in mind, there's some tracking we can do for you both on your website and social through Zoho Analytics. So let me just put a note there.
So that's not super targeted marketing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's something.
Specialized. Done for you. Got it. Yeah. Just wanted to better understand because I know we had initially talked priority. It's like, hey, the priority, while marketing is important, sales and service is where the big challenges come. And that brings
Correct.
me to my next point here, which is it was mentioned custom pricing is enemy number one.
Oh yeah, it's
Time
awful.
drain. Yeah, it's time drain and frustration. Every component needs to be priced separately. Recent project took 60+ hours for the whole home quote, multiple vendors per product, and then waiting on vendor responses. So a lot of that is going to be very difficult to automate, although we will be able to track most of it. So we can talk a little more about that, but we'll try to solve as many of those small problems that make up this giant challenge of
Mhm.
custom pricing. RFQ process complexity. There's multiple RFQs per project. RFQ is just a request for quote. That just means you're telling your vendor, hey, these are things that we want to purchase from you for our project. Tell us how much it's going to be. You'd think they'd be really responsive, but sometimes you got to bug them a bit to get a response there.
Mhm.
Some are straightforward. Other RFQs are more consultative. So you're bringing more general requirements and they're specifying certain products that will fit for your project. Need better tracking system for RFQ statuses across the team. Current tools, Quiller for presentations, integrates with QuickBooks. It's pretty nice. Combines pricing, renderings, contract signing, payment processing in one. AI opportunities identified. You can have an auto generation of initial quotes from meeting notes. Create RFQs automatically with human approval. So the dream I was describing to would be auto generate that initial quote from the meeting notes. And then it's going to miss some of the nuance. So you can add some of the nuance to the quotes. And then once the quote's created, have a button you can press to automatically send out RFQs just to get the process started. And then ideally automated vendor follow-up. So it's like once the RFQs are sent, they're being followed up consistently without you guys needing to send a manual email. There's going to be a lot more nuance to those things as far as what does a follow-up cadence look like? What would the template look like for the request for quote? Things like that. But I think the dream would be taking as much manual effort out of those things as possible. So
Yeah, I do. I am uncertain just because I haven't seen it work. Not saying that it won't work. And,
yeah.
With the way you guys set it up, I just haven't had an experience where it has worked.
Sure.
Because almost all of the products that we include in our estimate are bundled.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine how an estimate would be generated. I mean, are you just thinking like it'd say a drapery and then because as a part of the drapery, we have, the fabric, which has not been
Right.
decided yet. Then we have the labor, we have the installation, we have the measure. Those things for sure are included, and they all need to roll up into
into like
into
a
like a
combined
single
item.
line item. Yeah. Um,
Does it
and
all
that,
roll up to one line item?
a
Is
lot
there
of
more-
time, like we usually do
There's
it by
multiple
treatment.
bundled items though, right?
Correct.
Bundled item.
So
Okay.
like hardware would be one bundled item, then the actual drapery would be another,
Yeah.
and so forth. And if there's multiple spaces, it gets super complicated.
Yeah.
And so
I'll
I'm
tell you
just
what I was
having a
envisioning.
hard time figuring out
Yeah.
like how that would look and work.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I was envisioning here. So, essentially, what I was thinking through is after you get done with the in-home consultation, hopefully there's enough detail to give a general understanding to Granola of what products could potentially be used,
Mhm.
and then any subcomponents to those products you may already have information on. And so at its most basic, even if we don't do automatic estimate creation or quote creation, what would be nice is to just give you an output of Granola, like what products to think about and
Oh,
what's
for sure. I mean,
that
that
would
would
be
be,
basic.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a step forward, just that.
Yes. So that would
I just don't
be
want you to spend a ton of time on something that is going to end up being more complicated than it's worth, if that
right.
makes sense.
Yeah, and we don't. So this is what we'll do. We'll kind of give you ideas of what's possible, and then when we do the action plan readout, we'll just say we're seeing things very much from a technical perspective. You tell us what's going to be most impactful. So if we call it rolling wave, so we give you the full action plan so that you have ideas of what's possible. But as we go through it together, you always have like veto power. So you can say, hey, that sounds great. It's just not the current priority. So let's deprioritize it for now. Maybe we can get to it later. We're always happy to do that. We just want to make sure you know what's possible. So if you're like,
For
that's
sure.
nice,
Yeah.
I just don't think right now, that doesn't hurt our feelings at all. We're completely fine with deprioritizing. We just want to give, because that would be step one is Granola outputs a list of products and things. Step two would be as you get a consistent format and you start realizing these patterns, like, hey, these are indented bullet points. Can't these become subcomponents of a bundled item? Like that's where you
Mhm.
can start to copy, either copy paste it to an AI agent and say, give me a first draft quote, and it would be able to look in your database and create one.
Yeah.
So obviously that's more advanced, but I think it will, over time, you'll start to recognize other patterns where an AI agent would be appropriate. And even if that's not going to work, I do think, or if we deprioritize that, it still may be worth considering the RFQ automation where when a quote is created, you click a button called Send RFQs, and it finds the associated vendors and at least sends the email and the follow-ups.
Oh yeah,
Manual.
that would be huge.
Yeah. So things
That's
worth considering.
definitely feasible. Like, I mean, I can see
Yeah.
that functioning.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm interested in learning about the CPQ and how, in Zoho and how that could possibly play a role in this, if possible.
Sure. Yeah. The initial quoting would be so CPQ is just, hey, there's a quotes module inside of Zoho. There's some additional automations and configurations that are special to the quotes module. And which is a bit confusing because you have Zoho Books, which you're not using, you're on QuickBooks. But Zoho Books has its own quotes module too. And the big drawback is it doesn't have CPQ functionality. The reason CPQ is helpful is when you have lots of SKUs.
Mhm.
A limited amount of SKUs, it's really not that useful. But there's some unique features to the quotes module. I also have a video on it, I believe, so I should be able to fish that up. If you want to take a note of that after this meeting, when we send meeting notes, try to find it's a CPQ video, Zoho CPQ. If not, it's for sure in my Zoho CRM demo. It's just a section within it. And that would be helpful, I think, for there. So,
Sure.
yeah. All right. Next thing here, for procurement project management. So imagine quote has been created, an initial quote, and now you're sending out RFQs. Next part, process flow. You need a 75% deposit from your clients before procurement begins. Got weekly client updates, installation scheduling. It's kind of a general flow. So 75% deposit, procurement begins, weekly client updates, installation scheduling. Inventory tracking gaps. Team members don't always know status of orders and deliveries, need visibility into what's ordered, shipped, received, and inspected. Zoho inventory recommended for package and shipment tracking. If you remember that part of the video, basically, I think I could make a case for inventory being used as far as tracking what's been ordered, what's been shipped, what's received and inspected. I don't know how well that's going to play with QuickBooks, and I'm not sure if you want to keep double records of things, but inventory is built to track what's been ordered, shipped, received, and inspected's a little different, but I think we may be able to add a custom status so you can just mark it inspected.
Yeah, I think it's worth even just not tracking all of our existing inventory, but project level,
Yes.
inventory.
Yeah.
Especially from a finished goods perspective, I think would be super helpful.
Yeah, because I would think about it like this. So your sales order will be like the master record for that project. It's what was sold. And then within the sales order, you'll have multiple purchase orders to your vendors. And then on the other side, right, so that's procurement. On the other side of the sales order, you'll have invoices that were sent. And then more importantly, because QuickBooks will take care of invoices, within that sales order, you'll have associated packages, shipments, and then shipment statuses. I think that would be useful.
For sure.
So we can look into that. Quality control, inspection required before installation scheduling, payment, remaining 25% collected at completion. Almost always requires second installation for tweaks/additions. That was a note from Alethea, I believe.
The only thing, I'm sorry, but I don't want to forget. The only thing that really was left out of that process is the formulation of the installation plan. So sometimes that includes rendering. Sometimes it's just what materials we need to bring with us. And often it includes letting our installer know what the plan is before we go to the installation day.
Okay, so zooming in, I've got for the installation section here, schedule inspection/installation. Obviously, the creation of the plan needs to happen before that, correct?
Yeah.
Tell me what that looks like to create the plan.
Well, we usually use the renderings that we've created previously,
Okay.
and make any markings as far as like, where brackets would be located, that kind of thing, and make a note in our knowledge base of what we need to bring with us. And I believe working on some standardized lists sort of, for that. So we don't have to recreate them every time we have a draper job. We pretty much always need to bring this X, Y, and Z. So some of that will be pre-created, but it's just reviewing. We have to bring this thread, this, like that kind of stuff.
Right, because when you go to installation, the last thing you want the crew installing is not to have some material or
the right ladder or
yeah.
Yeah.
Additional.
So it's not very hard to do. It's just something we're really wanting to be more diligent about.
Got it. So creating a plan for installation, there's a standardized list of what needs to be brought and additional requirements per project, specific requirements. Got it. Okay. Very helpful.
Otherwise, that's the whole thing.
Got it. Yep. So we have installation here, creating a plan for the installation. There's a standardized list of what needs to be brought pretty much in every project. And then there's specific additional requirements for that specific project. Schedule the inspection/installation. Typically, and emails for reminders, normally 24 hours, a 24-hour reminder before. You collect the remaining 25% after installation. There's almost always a second installation and then review request. Review request is basically, hey, how do you think things went? If it's positive, you can send them another email that says, please rank us on or give us a review on Google. And if you can do this, by the way, you can basically take the initial response, and if it's positive, ask them for a review. If it's negative, ask them to explain their experience more so that you have constructive feedback moving forward. Or if you want, you can just send, hey, give us a review no matter what. It's completely up to you.
It's just so, the reason I'm smiling is because we have all, we just decide if it went well, we'll send them a review request. But and I were talking about that. That's not great because, if we just go into the project knowing that they're going to be asked for a review, how will that help us improve the project process?
Yeah. And it's just about gathering feedback, right? Because it's like when you initially gather feedback. So the way I'm proposing this would work is you send a review. You're basically getting a form filled out every time.
Yeah, I like that.
If it's negative, you're not asking them for a review on Google because it didn't go well, right? So you're not going to be like, please brag about this experience.
So because we've been so afraid, we're not getting the constructive feedback either. No, I like that. I wonder, do people get annoyed? What do you think about being asked twice to do a review?
Okay, personally, this week I had somebody, a service-based person, ask twice, and I don't know that I've ever left a Google review because I don't know that I believe that any review I read online is accurate. I feel like I'm being skeptic, but I feel like a lot of them might be paid. So I'm like, how helpful really are reviews? But anyway, she asked twice, and so she made it very easy for me. I didn't have to do any of the legwork. She sent me the link. I tapped on it and I wrote a 1 sentence, 2 sentence. I didn't go into big detail. So I wasn't annoyed, but I was just like, I never leave reviews. Why? But
yeah.
Okay, fine. She asked me twice. I'll do it.
I would argue it's good social proof, but honestly, you two are going to know much more about your business than I am. So I think it is something to consider at the very least. Is it priority number one? Not at all, but something.
But it's easy to automate, right?
Yeah, it's something that we can automate so that you build it once and never really think about it again. But there's other things I think that are more important to focus on. We'll just put it on the list as a consideration.
Yeah. I love the idea of the constructive feedback. I do. And I mean, I have somebody a current customer I know is going to have constructive feedback, and that's okay.
And then you guys, when you get the feedback, when you
Mhm.
get the feedback, it's not like, oh, this feedback's perfect. It's just a window into the customer journey. And you can decide if it's logical or not, right? If they're just like, it took weeks and I wanted it to happen in days, you can just be like, that's not even, that's not even reasonable feedback. Right. That's just, it's unreasonable. But there is reasonable feedback. Then you'd be like, I didn't really think of that. We can improve the process a bit. I think that is useful. Okay. So with that, that is pretty much the entire customer journey from lead in to installation. Are there any parts of this that you want to flesh out or that you have noted down that you want to mention before we take the notes that we've captured and turn that into an action plan? Is there anything that you're like, we've got to have this supported in Zoho, anything like that?
No, I feel a little bit, because I don't know the system well enough, it's hard to anticipate ahead of time.
Sure.
Sometimes I think I'll learn something's possible and I'll be like, oh yeah, we can use that, but I don't even know what's possible. So I'm just going to leave that to you.
Yeah, that's completely fine. We won't. So just to be clear, all we need from a client during discovery is what you currently know about the processes in your organization. And we need to, if you do have ideas, it's just good to hear. It's not a
Yeah.
must have, but if you have ideas, we want to take advantage. If you're like, we thought of sending a form here, it's like, oh, great. Like, let's take advantage of ideas you've had. So as long as you tell us what you're currently doing, we can do the rest. We'll tell you what apps it's going to look like. We'll take you through the whole user journey inside.
Oh, I just thought of something. You said the word form.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just dealing with right now one type of client, essentially. So we do have interior design clients still. And we require them to fill out, and we need to do this more regularly, an actual quote request with all of the specs that are, in their plan. Has been gradually creating forms for all the different treatments in Zoho Forms. So if we could figure out how to send those to the designers when they have a particular request for a particular treatment, and just making sure that those forms are set up properly, and all that.
Got it.
We don't ask homeowners because they wouldn't even know.
Right. An interior designer should know the specs so that they can fill out a form.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can certainly look at that. I don't think that's a problem. Because I think the way it'd work is each interior designer, they would have the quote request form or request for quote form. Once they submit it, that become a deal in your CRM. And then you can then kick off the quote to your RFQs to vendors and then go from there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Let me just take note here. Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing that we've been wanting to do is, and I think I've set it up, but I set them up as aliases, is create like a vendor's email address. And alternatively, one for clients, and then there's one for designers, so that we can all see the communication related to a project. Now, if that's not necessary, I know that the CRM can pull in and recognize emails, I believe.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's necessary, but basically on the client record, either we need a group team email, or we need, like, I need to be able to respond to an email that gets regarding a project if Alethea is not in the office.
Yeah.
And, or, if it's a vendor or client, it doesn't matter either way. We need to be able to back each other up. So however you see that working, that'd be amazing if we could make that happen.
Great. So yeah, great question. So you're talking about a shared inbox, right? Which is,
Yeah.
you all need to be seeing the same inbox so that it's out, having back and forth communication, can pick it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if we get emails from each of us individually, I don't know if they're all attached to the record, can we see them all, each other's,
Yeah.
and
So
maybe that's enough. I don't know.
let's see if this, we'll walk through this. So I think the order of operations here would be, first, each of you need to individually go inside of Zoho CRM and connect your email to Zoho. We have a video on that. We sent you a link to what we call Z training.
Yeah, I like that.
The basic training. It has a video to connect to email. You don't have to watch every single video. You can just go to connect your email. There's an onboarding checklist. When you connect your email, every record inside of Zoho, contact and account, is going to populate with associated emails. So here's the problem. Zoho CRM is not designed to manage emails. It's just designed to reference emails. So when you get to a contact record, you can send emails back and forth, but that's really just, it's not like Gmail or Outlook. It's not designed to receive and send emails. So then the next thing is, if that doesn't work and you still are having problems with managing emails, you have two options for shared inboxes. When I say shared inbox, just think about it like you're inside a Gmail or Outlook, except you're seeing emails and you're seeing his email. You're seeing everything. and multiple people can join that inbox. There's two options for that. Zoho Desk is essentially a shared inbox, although it's primarily designed for customer service as opposed to all communication with the client. And then you have Team Inbox, which is more of a general shared inbox. And then Zoho Team Inbox might be something you may want to look into. I'm not a huge fan of the user interface for Team Inbox, but I can leave that up to you guys. I can present both options. If I had to make a recommendation based on what we've discussed so far, I think Zoho Desk would make more sense, just because it's super organized and I like the user interface better. But that's a great shared inbox that's within the Zoho ecosystem. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, and we'll mention that in the action plan too. So we'll reiterate that.
Yeah, if everybody could just hit reply all consistently, we would be fine, but they don't.
Right. Yeah, and that's fair. This is a very common issue to have, where someone's out, they're still getting requests, they got to be attended to. So that totally makes sense. And then you'd have something like a info at or excellent. Alrighty. Well, I've got those notes. Anything else? By the way, just to ease your mind, if we do not capture every bit of detail during discovery, that is completely fine. Imagine this more as a jump start. There is technically never a completion of discovery because you can never have 100% detail of what you need in order to get started. We really just try to time the point of diminishing returns where it's like we have a good enough idea to get started, but as we go through the plan, we will collect other details. And you can always say halfway through the plan, we have another big project we want to start. We didn't know about it before, and we can prioritize that just so you guys are aware. So anything else before we wrap up?
No, I did notice that there was some confusion about from an accounting perspective in the last call, as far as, purchase orders, estimates and everything. So if you ever need to know what our process is in QuickBooks, from estimate through purchase orders and, let me know. Some of that, doesn't do. So there was no way with me not being on the call that I could explain that. But the most important thing is that first document, the estimate. And then, you mentioned sales order today. So I'm assuming you're aware that that's necessary in order to do purchase orders and whatnot in QuickBooks. So
yeah, and I'm actually going based on my Zoho Books knowledge. So if it doesn't translate perfectly, you can let me know for QuickBooks. But yes, the way we envision the record flow from like a post-sales standpoint would be sales order to purchase order for procurement, and then from sales order to package to shipment for delivery.
Yep. That's how we do it in QuickBooks.
Yeah, and then what I'm envisioning is the sales order is kind of the master record. So the purchase orders would be in Zoho inventory. You can, by the way, you can modify this if you're like, no, we want this in QuickBooks. You can let me know. But how I see it now is the purchase orders are going to be inside of inventory. Sales order is going to be in inventory, and the estimates will be in inventory. The estimates will convert to a sales order, and then the packages and the shipments and the shipment status updates will all be in inventory.
Okay, so my question is, how do we hook up the recognition of revenue with the estimates? And we have to turn an estimate into an invoice, and we do like progressive invoicing because of the revenue situation. Yeah. How does that get?
I think the sales order would connect with the sales order in QuickBooks, and then you can create estimate. You can create invoices from the sales order.
100%. Okay. I just didn't know if we would use the sales order as the main document in QuickBooks as well.
Yeah, it's so confusing, right? It's like there's 1,000 records. And I think this is something I get a lot of people like, why can't there just be one record for something? And I'm like, anytime there can be a one-to-many association, you have to split the record. There's just no way to do it.
There isn't.
Yeah, so the master record, I would consider the sales order. That's the signal of the sale. Right. And then the invoices is you saying we're requesting full payment or partial payment of the sales order.
So, obviously we're having to do that in QuickBooks. So I guess my my question is how does the sales order get to QuickBooks? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
so
wasn't
we can
quite
do a
that clear
push.
enough. Okay.
Yes, we can either do a manual push, you press a button and it pushes over to QuickBooks. And that is a bit tricky because what you got to understand about pushing financial information is when you look at a sales order, you have the information that's specific to the sales order at the top, and then you have the line items. And so you're going from one record to actually the line items, that's 2 records, to the product in the line item, that's 3 records.
hmm
And then to make it even more complicated, you also have the person, the contact. So now you're at another record. So you're moving, 4 or 5 different objects from Zoho over to QuickBooks,
Right.
and you're either creating or identifying the existing records. So we do this all the time. We do integrations with QuickBooks. That's just something to keep in mind when we create them, is that it might be a little more time intensive than you would initially think. So a
Can't be
solution.
more than it is now.
Say again, sorry.
It can't be more time intensive than it is now.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
it'll be something where basically we'll take our time to build it once, and then it will be less time intensive for you guys forever.
Right.
Yeah. So
And I just have one other question kind of
yeah,
along those lines. So thanks to the power of AI, I've been able to create a whole bunch of our vendors' price lists that are originally in PDFs into CSV form.
nice.
And
Yeah.
where are you imagining all of these items living? They're not physical inventory, but they're products we would pull from a pricing perspective. Like, I can put them in QuickBooks. Are you imagining they live in Zoho? It doesn't really matter. I just want to make sure, maybe both. I don't know.
Great question. Yeah. So I still need to go through and kind of debate if I want to go with Zoho CRM quotes before Zoho inventory quotes, because there's advantages to both. You're going to have to pay more for our time if we go with Zoho CRM to make quotes, because that's a separate module from Zoho inventory, and then we have to pass information. Why am I bringing it up right now? Well, you just asked, hey, look, I have these price lists. Where's it going to live? It's either going to live in inventory or inside of Zoho CRM, the price list. So I have to first decide, and you guys will have veto power, right? So I'll just say, hey, these are your 2 options. This is my recommendation. If you say, yeah, we want to go with Zoho CRM, then at least you're aware of the drawbacks for both.
Okay.
So to either live in Zoho CRM in the product section or in Zoho inventory in the item section,
Okay.
or both.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even
and
know the CRM had products quite like I didn't,
yes.
Yeah,
and it has price lists. We'll have to look at how yours are structured, but it does have price lists. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be great to have. And I'll add a note here.
Anything to make pricing easier.
Yep. It has price lists. What I hope eventually you're able to do with Granola too is like upload documents, so that when it outputs, hey, this is a recommended set of items, it can actually look through your items and
Yeah, that would be amazing.
yeah. And those are the things with AI agents where I'm like, it's there. We can certainly do that. Granola can do part of it, and then a custom AI agent could do most of it. And then just a side note on agents, I know it's hard because this technology is newer to see like what it would actually do. We can always create a proof of concept with a small amount of hours so that you can see, okay, I kind of get it, before we dedicate a ton of time and energy into polishing it. So just keep that in mind. If there's
Yeah, no, that's good to know.
yeah, if you're ever just like, we want to just approve concept of AI agent, we can always dedicate some time to that. As price lists from all vendors, that will be helpful. And this is going to sound like a dumb question, but these price lists, are they giving you an idea per vendor of price breaks for volume? Like
We never do enough volume to get any price break because we buy one-off custom products. So the only problem with all of these products is that most of them are product variants. A lot of them are product variants. So I kind of feel like we need to keep it as simple as possible. And for example, not say if it's iron black or, bright silver, it's the same price. Like,
Yeah.
I think trying to
If it's the
keep
same
it,
price for you, it's basically the same SKU almost, but just a
yeah.
variant.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, that's, the other problem is a large majority of the items are actually additive. So there's a base price, and then if you add X, it adds this much, add Y, it adds this much. And that gets complicated, but can be pretty well handled in a bundled situation.
Got it. Yep. We'll go through some of the nuances with products there, depending on if we go to, so Zoho inventory does sync with CRM. Really the question is, it's the quotes. That's the big thing. Because if you want CPQ doesn't exist in inventory. It only exists in the CRM. But then the problem is if you use CPQ and create a quote in Zoho CRM, you have to manually push it over to Zoho inventory. That's the issue. So it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
see now. Okay.
yeah. So it's kind of there's drawbacks either way. I'm actually leaning towards not using CPQ because I think, but we'll send you some info on CPQ so you can kind of determine for yourself if you think it's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then all these things too, if you're like, oh, we're in inventory, we have to go back to CPQ, it's not the end of the world to push you back over to Zoho CRM.
Okay.
So none of this stuff is so final that you can't undo it, if you will. So, okay, well, we've got a great amount of information here. This stuff's been really useful. So any other notes you want to make before we wrap up today's call and start working on your action plan?
I can't think of anything. Can you? No. Nope. I'm sure things will come up, but for now, I think it's a good summary.
Okay, so we have the detail that we need in order to start on the Zoho action plan. I want to make sure that we have our readout booked for
Oh, I'm
next
sorry.
week.
I just thought of something.
No, you're totally fine.
We haven't even addressed manufacturing. If everything we've talked about so far assumes that we're outsourcing fabrication.
Right.
Can we add later, like extra? I'm thinking more from the project's perspective. But when we're fabricating, there's a lot more steps, obviously, in our process.
Yeah. How often are you fabricating versus outsourcing?
Well, I'd say we're at about 85% being outsourced.
Okay. So what I say we do, and for every project, is there a little bit of fabrication on your side? Like 15%?
Usually we're tweaking something but
okay.
Yeah.
So this would be my recommendation is we start with where 85% of the situations are, which is the assumed workflow we have right now. I'll put a note in here that we can review the manufacturing process. Well, I guess this is a question for you. If we build things assuming there is no manufacturing for the first version and we put for phase 2, we'll work on manufacturing, is that going to work for you?
I think so.
Okay.
I just didn't want to ignore it entirely.
Yeah, not a problem. So I'll put phase 2 here. Manufacturing workflow. And we'll do almost like a mini discovery for the manufacturing flow, except we won't do like a full-fledged, hey, we're gonna have 4 dedicated meetings for this. We can just say, hey, we can meet for an hour or 2 or whatever it takes to get through that.
Sounds good.
Discovery. Got it. All right. Well, this is great. Thank you for being so detailed. No, he's not here, but maybe she watched the recording. She did great as well. We're going to take all this detail. We're going to create an action plan. I want to book the meeting to read that out to you right now. The next available time we'd have to meet and discuss that would be Tuesday, the 23rd, next week at 9 a.m. For an hour and a half. That's
9 a.m. Eastern or?
That's Mountain Standard, so that would be
11.
Eastern 11. Yep, and you guys are Eastern time, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
Because you'll be in that day, I think, or
Yep.
okay.
So we will book you then. And so discovery, so action plan, breakout. Excellent. All right. Well, I have sent out an invite for next week. We will recap. It's going to be a bit different than our last couple calls. The last couple calls, I'm asking you lots of questions, and you guys are in the hot seat. Next time, we're going to be in the hot seat. Feel free to ask any questions that you want. We book an hour and a half, not because we always use that much time, but because we want to make sure there's as much confidence and clarity as is reasonable before we begin development during that call. So as we go through things, if you're like, could you share your screen and kind of let us know what that looked like? Happy to do it.
Okay.
We'll have a document going from A to Z for an end-to-end system. And then you'll say, parts of this are really helpful. Parts of this maybe we want to do later. We'll go through the whole document. We'll give you an estimate for hours and timeline. And then once you approve the action plan, you can just say, looks good to me. We will begin development in your system.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Great to meet with you too. We'll get working on that plan. We'll present it to you next week on Tuesday.
Sounds
Sounds
great.
Any questions on that piece for fabrication? I know you mentioned that.
No, that's correct. I'm just pausing here for a second because
Please.
I'm super conflicted on QuickBooks versus Zoho.
Yeah.
I want to avoid duplicating work unnecessarily.
Understood.
So I'm curious how the integrations work with QuickBooks, and every software has different possibilities, I guess.
Sure.
Or they can be custom linked.
Yep.
If we were to keep everything in QuickBooks, and do all of the quoting, invoicing, inventory stuff in QuickBooks.
Yeah.
What is the potential for updating the record in Zoho CRM as to what we've done in QuickBooks, if you know what I mean?
The last part you lost me a little bit. So if you keep everything in books, are you asking what's the downside?
Well, how can we have a record of what we're doing in QuickBooks in Zoho CRM?
We can do an integration where you're seeing the finance modules from QuickBooks in Zoho. So there would be a related list on the deal, and we would connect the QuickBooks ID to the deal. So you could track that information. I don't think it's a bad idea to keep everything on QuickBooks, by the way. Or if you want to move to Zoho, I'd be a little more hesitant for that because it's a bigger project. I do think QuickBooks is not a bad option to even do the quoting there. I don't think that's a bad idea.
I think in order to, I don't want to end up having to upload everything to Zoho and then us realize that it's not any different or better, or,
Sure.
I just feel like maybe that's asking for more work.
Got it.
So I'm leaning towards keeping in QuickBooks if we can do the related list and pull in the most important things.
What I've described here for the integration is essentially you create the quote inside of Zoho CRM, and then once it's accepted, you push it over to QuickBooks and it becomes a sales order.
So what I'm curious, the reason I'm hesitating is because I'm not familiar with what Zoho quoting software is capable of doing from a bundled product standpoint. And just wondering, is it possible to bundle products in Zoho? And if so, is that going to translate correctly into a sales order in QuickBooks that we can actually use?
So when you say bundle products, are we talking Zoho CRM, Zoho Inventory, Zoho Books? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, whichever, I know you were debating whether to use Zoho CRM or Zoho Inventory for all of our items that we combined into one single product. So
Can we talk about Zoho One? I'm trying to remember if we had this discussion at all. Talk about this bundle. Does this look familiar at all?
I don't know. I know we have Zoho One.
Okay. Yeah. So Zoho One will include all those apps. So they're all bundled as far as pricing is
No,
concerned.
I'm sorry. I'm meaning our products that we sell that we need to quote on
Oh,
the
got
estimate.
it.
So, in QuickBooks, we need to track every item that goes into a single
Awesome.
bundled product.
Yes. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I don't know anything about the Zoho system to know, is it possible to create bundled products in the quote at all? And if so, will that integrate with QuickBooks satisfactory, in a satisfactory way that we can actually use the sales order that comes
Right.
up there?
Yeah.
Um,
Zoho inventory can, but I'll be honest, that integration would be complex. So I
I just
think
don't know if
doing
it's
that in
worth it.
QuickBooks, doing that in QuickBooks, I think makes more sense. If you were to do it in Zoho, one of the advantages is Zoho could do the tracking updates when you're procuring goods from vendors. So that's something to consider. But by no means do you need to do the integration between QuickBooks from the quotes in Zoho CRM. What I would suggest is that you do the related lists. That way, from the CRM, you're seeing financial records. I think that could be helpful.
No, I think that's super critical. And is there a way in the CRM to have fields that we can update to indicate to one another that things have been, an RFQ has been sent, we've purchased this, we've received this,
Yeah. Different sub statuses, you mean? So maybe within procurement to see, like, you can do a sub status like RFQs sent, RFQ, you could do accepted. Did you have certain sub statuses that you wanted to?
Sometimes, we've an order sent. A big one is all of our vendors bill us differently, and knowing what we've paid for, and what we haven't, is super important. And then, of course, ETA, having an idea of when the product's actually going to be received, and then when it has been received, that it is in-house. So those are the biggies.
Yeah, I would recommend we just do the subsets: draft, RFQ, sent to vendor, sent to client, accepted. We can start with these for subsets. And then what I'm going to do with this plan is I'm going to adjust it. So the way that we do the integration, I would just change. And I would just put here, I'll cross this out just so it's there for reference. But here, Rockbank Consulting will integrate QuickBooks sales order, purchase order, quotes.
I think that'll work. That would work really well.
List. Yeah. And basically you go to the deal record and you just scroll down and it would show QuickBooks sales order, purchase orders, quotes, RFQs.
That's right.
Yeah. And we just have an XML related list, and we can use Zoho Analytics to help with this. XML related list via Zoho Analytics. So the nice thing is Zoho Analytics does have a connection with QuickBooks, and you guys are in QuickBooks Online, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. So QuickBooks Online has a connector, so it just will pull everything. And then what we need is we just need the QuickBooks customer ID on that deal, and then it will pull everything over. So
that'd be awesome.
Is QuickBooks
had fraud on our check card, and so they've been trying to. That's what all those texts are.
Okay. So we've got that.
There were like 10 or 12 or something transactions.
I'll just search for different parts of QuickBooks here, because I'm going to remove some of these. Great.
While you're doing that, I'm going to go grab my glasses from downstairs.
Sure. Yeah, take a moment. Yeah, I just want to clean this up with this new. Yep. Okay. Should be good. Pricing, quote, initial quotes, quote. Okay, we should be good. And then just on the development side, this does work. As far as the QuickBooks ID in the deal, you're not usually doing multiple deals with the same client, I assume. Is that
Not
correct?
simultaneously. Sometimes they'll forget to purchase something and then they'll add something on. But
Yeah, it's most of the time it's one project per QuickBooks customer.
so when we sell wholesale, there's usually not always, but frequently multiple projects.
Okay, but for most of the not commercial residential projects,
There's
one
usually
customer per project.
one project, yeah, per customer typically.
Okay, yeah. So I think to start with, we'll just do that'll make the integration much more straightforward. And then
Yeah.
over time, if you're like, this needs to be more advanced. So if there's multiple deals or projects per client, then we can change that.
Okay.
Justin, yeah. But that's great. That actually makes the integration much more clean. And I think it will be easier there will be a separation from Zoho CRM to QuickBooks, but it will be a clean separation. All the finance records will just exist in QuickBooks and then be reflected via an integration within Zoho CRM, which is great.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a good plan.
Excellent. All right. So next thing here, just plowing through the present stage, I've adjusted some of this. I just want it there for reference, but it is crossed out. I mentioned we can still create that AI agent to create those draft RFQs, even in QuickBooks. If you want to think about it, we can work with QuickBooks. The AI agent platform we use is called N8N. And
Say that again.
It's called N8N.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that. Okay.
Yep. Very popular platform creating AI agents. So if that's something you want to explore, that's something that we put on our list here. We would automate the follow-up reminders. You would do that on the QuickBooks side, right? So, but we can work with Zoho Flow has a QuickBooks connector too. So if we want to set up follow-up reminders there, we can. Yep. So we can still do that for you through Zoho Flow. Zoho Flow connects with QuickBooks pretty well. Next thing, we talked about reviewing those vendor quotes. We talked about you presenting prospects using Quiller. Presentation will last approximately an hour. The nice thing about Quiller is it integrates with QuickBooks for those line items. That's great. Team member will track proposal views. Great, great, great. Current challenges is the change request. We talked about that. And I mentioned the master drip. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're caught up here to the procure stage. So first thing here is we will manage the procurement process. So team will coordinate with multiple vendors for materials and outsource fabrication. And the nice thing is at this point, the RFQ should have already been sent out and then you should have gotten the clarity you needed from your vendors. So now it's just a matter of sending the official purchase order out to all of those vendors through QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what will happen here is sending out those, sending those out. I'll remove the Zoho inventory thing here. And the current gap is team members don't know the status of orders and deliveries. So this will now take place based on what we discussed in QuickBooks. We can try to assist you there, but again, we know the inventory records pretty well from a Zoho side. We'll try to consult you where we can from QuickBooks, but we don't. But QuickBooks is usually not the platform we're consulting on there, so just be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Luthia will provide client weekly client updates. So this is something I was thinking of exploring. We could create an AI agent to automate the weekly updates. So essentially how this would work, and I put Zoho inventory, we just switched this over to QuickBooks. That same platform I was talking about, N8N, can look, and this is something to explore. It's not something I'm saying this is a must-have, but something is the AI agent can look through all the customers' draft purchase orders, and then we'll look at the status for them and can create a really nice email every week and just send it to the clients and say, this is where your order's at. So as long as that's connected in QuickBooks, we can report on it using an agent, which is something to think about. So, and I think I lost you. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, we just heard you say I can create the agent in QuickBooks, just to know that.
Yeah. So basically the agent can look through QuickBooks data and then just report to a customer and say, hey, these are the purchase orders related to your account. These are the status. Half of them are delivered, half of them are not, something like that.
Mhm.
So if you want to automate that, that's something we could explore
That'd be
using AI. Would be
Find clients for sure when there's a huge list.
yeah, it just will make life a lot easier. But something just to consider there.
Mhm.
Next thing here, team will receive and inspect all materials. Also, last thing on the AI agent, we can have it create a draft to review too. So it doesn't have to do the whole thing. It could get approval from and then send out as well.
Would want to do it.
Say again.
That's how we would want to do it. We try to personalize them to some degree, at least at this stage of growth that we're in.
Sure. Yeah, totally. Human in the loop. Okay. So next thing here is team will receive and inspect all materials. So we'll mark the items as received and inspected in Zoho inventory. I'll just change that over to QuickBooks system. Team member will contact vendors for any quality issues or incorrect items, and all items must be received and approved before scheduling installation. So now we're on the install stage. We'll create the installation plan. We will use previous renderings to mark bracket locations and measurements in the home of a location. We will create materials checklist from standardized lists. And I think you're developing those. We talked a little bit about that, I think, on our last call. Team will schedule installation. So team member will contact client to arrange installation date. We talked about maybe sending a Calendar link, but I think it's better if you guys connect with them and go through that with them to schedule. And then Zoho will send automated reminders before installation so that it's not a shock when people show up to for the installation date.
I have a quick question on this. As far as these documents that you're mentioning that we rely on, like an installation plan, the checklist, all of those things, are those documents that we can upload to the client's record in the CRM?
Yes, good question. I would recommend that we use Zoho projects for this.
Okay.
So that essentially what you would do is there will be a related list called Zoho projects, and your standardized checklist will be a template. So you just can create the standardized checklist, and then you can add additional items to that if you want. But that's a great way to track any tasks post-sale. So they're a customer at this point. I think that's totally appropriate to use Zoho projects. So I'll put an item here to configure an initial template for the standardized checklist. And this, by the way, if you remember the board that I showed you at the very beginning when we worked together and it just showed all the items, we went through an onboarding checklist, it would be the exact same thing for you guys. So
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Very organized, great for you can share it with the client if you want them to see everything there. It's a great tool. Initial template within Zoho projects to track. You can certainly do that. Yeah, put an item there. Team will coordinate with external installers when needed. And then team will schedule installation. So team member will contact client to arrange installation date, usually email communication. Zoho will send automated 24-hour reminder before the installation. Team will become more strict. You guys have become more strict about offering specific dates rather than a flexible schedule. Just a note there. Team will complete installation and collect final payment, which is the 25% remaining. Second installation visit almost always required for adjustments or additions. Zoho will trigger automated review requests after final installation. So the system will say, hey, how did things go? Give us some feedback. If it's a positive response, you can request a Google review. If it's negative, it will just go to you guys for constructive criticism. You don't have to do it that way, but that's how we built it for some of our other clients. So collects more 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews, and it gives you constructive criticism to improve your processes as you move along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I just went through is kind of the whole customer journey, right? From initial contact to installation and review.
Yep.
Now, these are some additional things we talked about that don't fit cleanly into the customer journey, but are still important. So the QuickBooks integration is one of those. We would integrate QuickBooks sales order, purchase order, quotes, with Zoho CRM deals related list. We'd connect that via Zoho Analytics and do an XML related list. You don't need to know the technical parts of that. Essentially, the things in QuickBooks will appear in Zoho CRM. That's the important thing to understand. Next thing here is communication collaboration. We talked about a shared inbox for you guys. So we could look into Zoho Desk or a team inbox, but that's just so that as you're getting client communication, everyone can see it. And so we talked about that. That's something we can certainly set up for you. We would show you Zoho Desk and team inbox. I'm leaning towards team inbox, but it's essentially, imagine you took your email and everyone could see it and assign themselves to an email. That's what it would be.
Yeah, that's so critical.
Excellent. Yeah, we can move this towards the top
Yeah.
if you would like, because that's the thing you two are going to know better than me is like how critical or how priority. So we can certainly move this up.
Yeah, I would say that
Do that.
maybe is even more important than the CRM.
Yeah, let me throw this to the top of the list. What I would recommend is we do the staging first, and then I will put here after staging, I'll put the communication collaboration piece here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Yep, so we've got the integration bit here. Next thing here, marketing automation. We talked about drip campaign for post-presentation. So sending regular project showcases. I mentioned if you have pictures of other projects that could be helpful to send over to them. Lead source attribution. I know you guys are going to do paid advertising in the future. We can track that through a Zoho Analytics dashboard. That's something I think is more of a future phase, but if you guys want to track future advertising and how well it's going, that's something to think about. And then these are some other future phase things we talked about: exploring AI agent for quote generation, consider automated weekly procurement updates. We talked about that already, but I would put that as a future phase. Again, you guys have veto power and priority power. So if you want to say that's priority number one, we can always move that up. Manufacturing workflow. We would conduct a separate manufacturing like mini discovery session to address the 15% of projects that involve in-house fabrication. And then knowing that currently 85% is outsourced. So we just wanted to confirm we're aware of that, and we can put that on the list to address in the future. You mentioned you converted vendor PDF price list into CSV format using AI. We can determine how to store it within Zoho CRM products and inventory items. This isn't really relevant as much anymore if we're going to separate QuickBooks, but we did note that. So I'll cross this out, but it's something that we did consider for you guys. Lastly here, training. If we do all of the other things right and we fail to train you guys, it's all for nothing. So we want to make sure that when a system's built, you know how to use it. So a couple things that we recommend here. Number one is setting up Zoho Learn for training and documentation. So I think I discussed this a little bit, but essentially what we do for training is we give you an SOP. It's called How to Create an SOP. And then anytime you're doing something that you want to hand off, you can record yourself doing it and then can create the standard operating procedure of the system. The dream here is you're always one recording away from being able to delegate something. And then also the dream is for you never to have to create an SOP in your life, but you have lots of SOPs that are helpful in your system. So it's a sustainable way for you to basically duplicate yourself in the organization and create lots of standard operating procedures that are actually helpful. So we would put our template in there and we'd show you guys how to use that. Also, as we create things in your system, we will create videos that you guys can choose to put into standard operating procedure format if you want. But every time we complete an item, we record ourselves and say, hey, this is the QuickBooks integration, this is how it works, and we send it to you. So you'll have proper documentation on everything that was done in your system.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's training. We're huge on this. This is where everything falls apart. If you have a perfect system and no training, it can't work. So we're pretty big on this. So we'll do our part. We'll send you videos on everything that we're doing. We ask that once we create this SOP for you, I think on your team, it would be keeps this up to date so that there is a standardized way of doing things. And then I know he's not here. The nice thing for you two is the SOPs don't say write down every single step under the sun that happened in the video. It's just the 20% of the steps to give you 80% of an idea of how to do something. And then the nice thing is this procedure portion here, this is the most current version of doing a procedure. And then the video that I will initially create is the first version to give you an idea of what needs to be accomplished.
Back to you at the beginning of next week. We have our next team meeting on Friday morning. So
Sure. And we will do our best to make ourselves available. Just be aware we have many projects going on. It's very volatile. So sometimes one week we're completely slammed. It's really first come, first serve as far as who's like wants to move forward with their action plan. So just be aware of that, because I want you to think you'll get back next week. And then if we're slammed, we may have to say our next available date to start this would be whenever we have availability. Sometimes I wake up and I'm booked 3 weeks out. Sometimes I wake up and there's no meetings tomorrow. So it just kind of depends on the schedule. So
that makes sense. Well, we haven't had it for this long, so
yeah,
I mean, it'll be great to take it tomorrow. So
okay, excellent. Well, we will send this over to you. I'll adjust the hours. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And then we'll move forward from there.
okay, thank you so much.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
great to meet with you too. We'll also send the recording, and we'll make sure this document's available for you two and two as well.
Wonderful. Thank
Great.
you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.